Jag kommer att dra en kort presentation om honom här. Han jobbar med mikrogenetik. Han har ett stort intresse och en passion för bågskytte. Har varit med i landslaget för Luxemburg. Han har varit med i otaliga mästerskap. Bland annat olympiska spelen i Tokyo. Han jobbar som, eller är tränare och lär ut bågskytte över hela världen. Han är här hos oss idag. Vi kommer... Han sa att hans svenska är lite rostig. Så han kommer att hålla sitt anförande på engelska. Något enstaka ord kanske vi får höra på svenska, vi får se. Men välkommen i alla fall, Luc Schuler.
Thank you for this nice introduction. It's the first time I have been introduced like this. So thank you for that. Also thank you to the Swedish Archery Federation to give me the opportunity to speak before you today. It's also the first time I speak in front of, let's say, approximately 95 people. So I tend to get nervous, so don't forgive me that, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk about shot process, why it is necessary, and by this I am sharing with you my coaching philosophy. This is the way I coach with my archers. I want to give them all the tools they need to perform under pressure, so they need a shot process, they need a shot sequence, and this is going to be the topic throughout my presentation today. So, since I want it to be a bit interactive, I'm not going to speak all the time. I'm going to ask you some questions, I'm going to show some quotes, I'm going to ask for your experience, and so, let's get started.
Just a question, will we get the presentation afterwards, or is it only for showing here?
No, you can. I give the presentation as PDF to Susanna, and they can then distribute it. There's just, so you know, one video I have to take out because I'm not allowed to share that video, but you will get this presentation. No problem. So, as you can see, we're going to talk about mindset. So, first of all, I want to ask some questions, like this one. Does this sound familiar to you or to your archers? Meaning that you perform very well in practice, but not or less well in competition. Just raise the hand if this applies. There are some hands up. That's good. So basically, this is true as well. For the practice arrows, everything is fine, and as soon as the competition arrow starts, you make sure that the target face doesn't fall off the bail. Okay. Does this apply to you as well? Meaning that competition is more exhausting to you, even though that you shoot less arrows. If you take an indoor competition, you just shoot 60 arrows, but after those 60 arrows, you are more tired than after training of 150, 200 arrows. Does this apply to you? Yes? Okay. Is there a difference in your mindset between practice and competition? Is there something that is changing? What are your experiences about this? Can anybody share? Yes, over there? Just scream.
The sounds around me change. So it's more exhausting to compete because there's a lot of people talking and there is signals and sounds and different lighting and like basically very overstimulating situation.
Okay, so you said something very important. There are other stimuli. There's something that is stressing you, let's say. But what changes later on? When do you switch to competition mode? Do you have a competition mode? Or do you know what a competition mode is? Yes? Well, what is your definition of a competition mode?
For me, competition mode is when during practice, I try to adjust between everything. Anything that went wrong with the last shot, I try to apply something different to the next one. if I'm a little bit off, I adjust, the plunger or something like that. But in competition mode, it's like, okay, I'm hitting slightly to the left. That's how it is. I need to now just aim right, not worry about changing anything. Like just keep doing the same thing and just adjust so that you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but this change into your competition mode, is it voluntary or does it just happen? Or do you need a trigger to switch from the practice arrows to the competition arrows? Is there something that you consciously change so that you decide? Yes.
I change. Personally, I change like the way I prepare for my shots by either going through something, constantly repeating before every time before I step to the line. So I do some twitching or just think something, repeating, just to focus on the shooting.
Okay.
Every time.
Very good. Thank you. Anyways, you're coming back to these questions at the end of this presentation, but here are some more. Sometimes do you panic, that you have the feeling that you try too hard? Let's say if something goes wrong, you make an extra effort to get it right. And then maybe you have an incorrect focus, that you are not paying attention to your feelings, but you're more paying attention to the score that you're going to shoot. Does this apply?
Yes.
Yes. So you certainly know this. Quicksand. When you're trapped in quicksand and you start to move to get free, the more you move, the faster you sink. And in competition, the more you try, the worse it gets. So by trying everything to get your scores up again, it just gets worse. Until one moment where you just give up. You're going to let yourself drown. And from that moment on, when you don't care about anything anymore, miraculously, your scores go up again. Does this apply? Quicksand.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, great. So, on this scale, during competition, are you more on the panic side? Like the duck on the lake, the part above the water is pretty calm, but below the feet go like this, panic. Or are you on the toughness side, that even the feet just stay still underwater? Are you more to this side? Please raise your hands. Yes, okay, there's some hands go more to this side. Who is really tough? Some of you, okay. Fewer persons. Okay, great. So, when we talk about mental toughness, what is it? How would you define mental toughness? What does it represent to you? You see, it's a simple question, but very hard to answer.
I'm going to be you and me the whole time.
No problem, come closer then.
Mental toughness, I would say it's the ability to change your own mood even when things aren't working out for you.
That's a very good definition.
Thank you.
So since you shared yours, I'm going to share you mine. So what is mental toughness for me? First of all, it is the ability to go back to a process aggressively, very important, aggressively, that you go back to your process that you have trained for the next arrow. You shoot a bad arrow, when you look at archers sometimes, the next end after this bad shot is also bad, because they are still thinking about it. So we need to go back to the process aggressively, when we need it, of course. We have to take risk aggressively, always aggressively is very important when we need it. Meaning, we are shooting outside, there's wind, we have to aim off, whatever, we have to change our sight, or we have lost our feeling, we need to take the risk to aim off. 2 years ago, at the European Grand Prix in Turkey, we were shooting the bronze medal final. My archer was shooting on the left side of the field, opponent on the right side. Right side there was some wind, trees, and I had a pretty good view on the open field to read the wind. And I was telling my archer, okay, when I see the flags in the middle of the other training field change directions, I'm going to tell you. So you know that probably 2 seconds later you are going to have more side winds whatsoever. It worked pretty fine. We came to shoot off, and of course, much more pressure. You should have then just even more pressure, let's say. And my archer was standing at full draw, and I told him, watch out, wind ahead. And what did he do? He listened to me, so I had to take this risk for him because he couldn't see the flag changing, whatever. I had to tell him. He was aiming higher than he had to because headwind slowing down the arrow. He hit a 9 high. The opponent, very good archer, he shot an 8 low. So it's also about the coach to take these risks aggressively because you have to help your archers, you have to take these decisions. If it doesn't work out, it would have been my fault, yes. But luckily it did work out. But that as well, also not only the archer has to have some mental toughness, the coach as well. Because only this, when you apply this, that will allow you to produce normal and predictable performances in very abnormal and unpredictable environments, meaning you know what you can do, you know what your average score is, you are predictable. But can you shoot the same score in an unpredictable environment? You just said before you come to a competition, there's noise, there is timing, there is some other stimuli, there's talking in the background, there's more wind, there is rain, more sideways than from top down. It's not easy to compete in these conditions, but mental toughness is going to allow you to adjust to this because you learned to take risks aggressively to manage these situations. Okay, so we need a mental game for that. So we need to master the mental aspects of archery as well, because we only train mostly the technical side, but we also need to train the brain. And they only work together to have an optimal performance under pressure, because we all suffer from pressure. So we need this mental routine that we are going to play through for each shot, because otherwise there is some variation coming. We are not in control of what we are doing, of what we have trained, if we don't do this. So champions, they always exhibit to have these, let's say, these focused under pressure. If you see athletics at TV or whatever, does Usain Bolt seem to be stressed? 100 meters qualification run? No, he doesn't. He's smiling. Because he's like, okay, I am self-confident. He can lift himself up. He accepts the challenge. He's not going to lay down in front of that challenge, but he takes it on. And most of all, he is aware of his feelings under pressure and in these unpredictable environments. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. Archery is not an isolated sport, but it is a sport. Point. So we have to look what other sports do and apply it to archery as well. To talk about this, first I need to talk a bit about the human mind. So, as always, it always depends on how we look at things. So here's a very easy description of the human mind. So our mind is composed of the conscious, subconscious and the unconscious mind, and of course the self-image. I am going to explain very briefly what they are about, but here is what you need to remember about this, that they all work together based on the training they have been given. So if we don't train in the right way, how can we perform under pressure? Because something is going to change and we need to be confident about our technique. But we cannot be confident about our technique if something is not right, something is different. Okay? So, the conscious mind, let's say, is everything that we are aware of, what we see, what we feel, what we smell, all this is a conscious that we take up, let's say. So this information is used to feed the subconscious and the self-image. It is also very creative because all that we create, paintings, drawings, whatever, is from our conscious mind. We picture this and we put it onto paper. But the conscious mind also has some negative sides. It is always trying to judge us, to evaluate us, to doubt. So, okay, this was good, this was bad. So it is always a self-estimation about what we do, and we take this consciously. I have seen archers on the field, he had a bad shot. What did he do? He took his next arrow out of the quiver, but instead of putting it onto his bow, he was slapping himself. So he was judging him. Is this good? Probably not. Okay, but moreover, our conscious mind wants to be proven right, which means you are studying for an exam. And then you have, no, it's not, let's say, your favorite subject, and then you say, oh, I'm never going to pass this test, then actually you don't pass the test. And then, yeah, I knew it. You see, your conscious mind wants to be proven right, if it is positive or negative, but it's always the negative that has bigger influence, because we always pay attention to that, not to the positive side. And as what I just said, you failed the test, you end up with what you are picturing. So it is bad things attract bad things, good things attract positive things, okay? So the conscious mind, it can be controlled, but we need discipline and we need a mental system. And I'm going to talk about this later on. The self-image is also part of this, and is also part of the world around us, which means that our self-image is not only influenced by the conscious part, but also about the people surrounding us. I come back to this when I talk about the self-image. So we can always imagine that your conscious mind is like the captain of a ship. He is shouting around the orders, but it is the crew below deck taking care of housekeeping, taking care of the engines, working in the kitchen, whatever is necessary to make the ship run. But it's just the captain telling the orders. But the crew is doing the job based on the training they have been given. So you see what I mean? It is not us who do parts in archery, but it's the conscious and subconscious. So, what is the subconscious? This is what is in charge of our recent memories, where the information are stored that I am actually using at this moment. So for now I know my room number is 314. In 1 week I don't care about it anymore because it's not important, but right now it is important. So it is in my subconscious mind, so I can recall that number pretty easily. If you're asking what was my room number in Turkey, well, I need to look further and I don't know, because you see what I mean. Okay? But the subconscious is acting as a guard. It's always trying to protect us. Since we were a baby, the first month we were just relying on our subconscious mind. We couldn't talk, we couldn't communicate. So we were just crying, and the different cries told our mother or father what we need. So the subconscious mind is taking care of us. And, of course, wants to keep us safe. But it is infinitely more powerful than the conscious mind, because it's still influencing our behavior. Moreover, it can do many things at the same time. Our conscious mind, we can just have one thought at a time in our head. The conscious mind is doing whatever it wants, it needs. You see, I'm standing here, I'm gesticulating, I'm talking. I'm not thinking about showing what is important. It's just subconscious mind taking over. You see what I mean? You can drive home or you drive to work every day the same way. But if you want to go see a friend, at one specific point you need to turn left. It certainly has happened to you that you have taken the way to drive to work and forgot because you don't think actively. It is subconscious mind taking over. You started the program, I need to go that way. But at one moment you had to go left or right, which is a conscious decision. So you see what is happening. So it's taking care of you. And it acts on its own. So we need to control it as well. Okay, so I always compare the subconscious as the RAM in a computer, where all the information currently in use are stored. All the programs that you run every day, when I walk, whatever, I don't pay attention how I put my feet. It's just going. You haven't ridden your bike for 10 years, you stand on it, you get on your bike, and you can ride your bike without thinking how it goes. Because that program is still stored in your subconscious and ready to be used. But the subconscious, as I said, is carrying out the work below deck. But it's the conscious mind, the captain, who is shouting the orders. Plus, it is the captain who is responsible for the training of the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is always as good as the training. See what I mean? Makes somewhere it makes sense. Moreover, the subconscious doesn't want to judge you. But it can be trusted to perform at your maximum performance in very unusual conditions. When this happens, athletes always say, I was in the zone. I can aim there, but I hit the 10 over there. I can do whatever I want. I can release like this, I still hit the 10. You are in the zone because the subconscious is taking over, and there is nothing that you are doing to interfere with the subconscious mind carrying out the shot. So it is based on this that science proves that most of our daily activities are carried out by the subconscious mind, and only about 5% are really based on our conscious mind. So there is something, a high degree of activity that we are delegating to our subconscious mind to take care of. Briefly, the unconscious mind, just to complete the entire picture. So the unconscious mind is a reservoir of feelings, of thoughts that are mostly unpleasant, that we don't want to recall very often. The unconscious mind only exchanges information with the subconscious, and that these can be feelings of pain, anxiety, conflict. I bet that many people are afraid of spiders. But do you know why? What is the reason you are afraid of spiders? Is it because you have been taught this by your parents, that you have to be careful about spiders? Or is there some negative experience you had with spiders, which you mean, oh no, never again? You don't know, because this information is locked up in your unconscious. You can access the information, but you need more psychological tools like hypnosis to access this information again. But still, this information is influencing your behavior, even though that you are unaware of these underlying influences, but it still is. That is something which is important, so that the unconscious is a bit like our hard drive, where all the information has been stored since our birth and is accumulating. Not everything is going to be recalled automatically. You need to think about some stuff for a couple of days before you find the information back, to put it back again in the subconscious where you can use it. There is something which is really important to know, is that the conscious mind can do things that the subconscious mind can't, and we're going to take advantage of this. It is first of all the ability to direct our focus. We can decide where we are going to put the focus, where our attention will be. And of course the ability to imagine what is not real, because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. If you do mental training later on, you can have visualization, you visualize yourself doing something, the subconscious mind is bringing up the emotions related to that, even though it's just picture in your head, not real, but the subconscious mind doesn't make the difference. Okay? Self-image. So self-image is probably a new concept for many of you, few of you, but it is everything who we are, what defines us, what is making us be like us. That is something which is very important. There are two ways of seeing us. You can see the cat sees herself as a lion, or the lion sees himself as a cat. Which one are you? You see? It's your decision, of course. The self-image is generally very resistant to change, but there are ways to change it. This is what defines the comfort zone. You are feel very familiar in your club. It is your nest, let's say. You can perform without any stress because you know the environment, you know the people around you, you know what you're doing, so you feel like the lion. But once you get outside of your nest, you feel like the cat. Because your self-image tells you, oh, I'm new, I don't know that, okay, you change your body language, whatever, and you are becoming the cat, okay? But the performance and self-image are always linked. So if you train yourself to remain the cat, you will perform well under pressure. Self-image, it can be changed, it can be grown, but it must also be protected and nurtured. So we need to take care of our self-image, we need to work on ourselves. And of course, this or this does not always reflect reality. There are some people who think they are a lion. Those are the most dangerous. Okay? So, if we want to change our performance, we need to change our self-image. There's two things that our self-image needs. It's confirmation from ourselves. The archer who is hitting himself is not giving himself this confirmation he did something well or something good. No, he's punishing himself. So, self-image takes a crack. On the other side, we also need confirmation from others, from the people around you, because this is influencing our self-image. If we feel at their level or if we feel below their level, is the self-image. So we need also confirmation from others to have a confident self-image, let's say. If we want to change it, we need to move to the sweet spot. The sweet spot is just just outside of our comfort zone, but it is not yet in the panic zone. So if you're going to train, don't train with people who are at your level or below your level. Go challenge the ones who shoot 10, 15, 20 points more than you, so that you have a little challenge to get at their level. Don't go and compete with someone who is shooting 680 at 70 meters. Doesn't make any sense. If you shoot 630, then go compete with someone shooting 640. Just get a little bit outside of your comfort zone to get used to it, because there is where you're going to work on your self-image. There's a healthy self-image as well, because this is based, of course, on your personal feelings and perspectives. This is also true for the unhealthy self-image. But people who have this healthy self-image, they are not influenced by other people's opinions or expectations. I have to do this because they expect me to do this. No, you have to do this because you want to achieve that goal. It is your goal. This is how you're going to have a healthy self-image, because you have a more optimistic outlook on life. You have more confidence because of this, because you trust your own abilities, because it is your goal that you have defined. It's not to please someone else, it's not to please your coach, no, it's to please yourself. And of course you have by this a greater sense of control over your life, because you are not living up to some other person's ideas, whatever, but you are more aware of your personal shortcomings as well. You know where your strong points are, and you know about your less strong points, okay? Compared to an unhealthy self-image, they only focus on their flaws and limitations. I am hitting myself, I did a bad shot. Well, okay, but maybe I did 30 good shots before. But I focus on the bad one, on the limiting shot. Okay, you see the difference. I am criticizing myself, I am hitting myself because I did a bad shot. And when you generally talk to these people, you will realize that they have a more pessimistic view on life. That they are always focused on these limitations. They are blown out of proportions. I have a paper cut. Oh, I could have bled to death. I lost 2 liters of blood. Whatever. You know those people who always exaggerate the little negative thing happening to them. So, and they, of course, are very much influenced by other people's opinions and expectations. So they are limiting themselves. They're having, let's say, an unhealthy self-image, and it is much harder to change this. But I am sure of all those characters I just described, you know people to which this applies. Is that right? Yeah, I see some heads nodding, so I guess it's not that wrong what I'm talking here. Whew. So, but now, what does this have to do with the shot process? So we have to put all this information together. But first of all, before we talk about the shot process, we need to talk about the shot sequence. What is a shot sequence? The shot sequence is all the actions that I carry out as an archer, as an athlete, in whatever sport, to bring myself in the best optimum position to perform. So I have to be in the same physical, the same psychological state for each shot. I have to set my stable posture. Of course, we're not going to change our posture except in field, but that's something different. I will always have, or make sure that I have a stable contact between my bow grip and my string, because basically those are the only points I am in contact with my equipment. So I have to make sure they are always repeatable and stable, that there is no change on this side. Because only then, when I take care of this, what I can take care of, I will be able to have a continuous and effortless coming action. This is now shooting, whatever. So we need to take care of this. When we look at other sports, do you think, if we just look at basketball, there's a free throw, that the guy just takes the ball, steps to the line, and then bam, oh, no, I missed. No, but he's taking the ball, he's coming to the line, he's taking his posture, tapping the ball a couple of times, setting his mindset, and then he takes a decision and starts to perform his action. So he has a sequence, and in archery we also need a sequence. For the rest of this presentation, I'm going to refer to this as the hardware, because this is all the stuff that I make or I do with my body to carry out the shot. Okay? So, the shot sequence can be divided into 3 different phases. We have the preparatory movements, which is all our stance, knocking and so on, hooking, gripping, whatever. The force production movements, when I start raising the bow and starting to draw. And then, of course, the release follow-through. So here's an overview of all the steps. I am cutting it down into several points. All these we are going to cover. And of course, we have expansion and follow-through, which is also physical, mental, and visual. But as you can see, all this is part of the shot sequence. We need to integrate it into our sequence to be able to carry out a repeatingly good shot. Even for the coaches, there's something we need to talk about. There are two ways of teaching this. But we all have both methods have one thing in common. We always want to have one fluid motion from the bow raising till follow through. So how do we teach this? One is the predetermined form, that is one form for everyone. But it is easy for the coach because, okay, everybody does the same. Problem is, it doesn't fit to everybody the same. So we need to make later on some adaptations to this. And also, if we don't explain the details to beginner, they can miss them, which might cause problems later on. On the other side, we can have an analytic approach built on different steps. It allows for customization because some archers are different. You have hyperextension in your arm, they are less flexible, whatever. So it allows from the start on to be more individual on the specific need to every archer. But this, of course, needs a very good understanding of the coaches and a high coaching education to explain this in this matter. So it might look that there is, let's say, a lack of fluidity because it is step by step, but on the other side, the archers are getting aware of what is important. As I just said, there is no one size fit all, so therefore I always make my archers write down their own shot sequence. What are they doing? This is something that I would like to try with your archers. Just when you get back to your clubs, take one or two and ask them to describe to you, in their words, what they are doing. And I make a bet with you today, you don't get many answers, you don't get many details. Mostly what you will get is, well, I step to the line, I draw back to anchor, I aim, when it clicks, I let go. That's probably what you will get, but how? What are the details your archer is carrying out? Just remember, if your archer cannot tell you in your nest where they feel comfortable what they are technically doing, how can you expect them to perform under pressure outside of their nest? They don't know what they do. So we need to make them write down their shot sequence with their words, with their picture, so that it relates to them. They need to have, let's say, the steps as a chapter and then the technical points below, so they can always go back to their own script if they are starting to have problems. They can read, okay, am I doing this point? No, okay, I pay attention to this one. So you are teaching them to help themselves, which is another benefit of this shot sequence. Because it allows you to direct the focus. As you have seen, the conscious mind allows us to direct the focus. We can take of all these parts one specific point. When I hook my string, I can take a conscious action, put a focus on how I grip do I have the right tension? Are my fingers placed correctly? I can check this. If I just go to the line, like many archers do, step onto the line, directly address the target, put the arrow on, then somehow, okay, where's the string? Here. You're laughing, but it sounds familiar, I guess. Everybody knows people doing this, but how can you expect to have the same outcome if every time something changes that we don't control? That is why this is very important. So how does this look like? Of course, the coach should assist with this. So this is my shot sequence. So it is now a document, let's say, of 14 pages, but I have changed it into a coach's shot sequence, so it is not that personal anymore. So you can see it. Here is, for instance, how I hook my string. There are pictures. How do I hook my string? Where do I place my fingers? All little details. Where do I take the pressure? What is the position of my fingers, for instance? Later on, when I start drawing my bow, how should my scapular be? It should, of course, be lower on the drawing side than on the bow side. Stuff like that, by taking everything to the detail. Of course, you're not going to go through all these points during a shot, no, but you have a technical description of what you do. When you start having trouble, you read it, and you will often find, maybe that is the problem. You have your own script to which you can always come back to and find help. Another important thing about this is that it allows for an efficient communication. One coach is talking this, the other coach is talking that, but here we have something in common. We are talking about the same language. It's very important to have a consistent instructions from coach to coach. If you come from a junior team to a senior team or whatever other categories, they're all speaking the same language. It helps to identify the flaws more quickly because you know, okay, this is related to this step. Then you can go to this step and check the details and possibly find a solution. And of course, it is easier for the coach to run the training session. I have been for 10 days with the Spanish team in their preparation camp in Turkey. And even though I don't speak one word of Spanish, except order food and drinks, of course, I never understood what they were talking about, but I understood the steps. I know exactly on what step they were working. Even though I did not understand what was now the exercise, somebody had to translate it to me, but I knew on what part of the technique they were focusing at that moment. So you see, it's very important to speak the same language. Okay, so according to you, how much of archery is mental or physical? What is more important? Who thinks, let's do it just by raising the hand, who thinks that mental is important? Okay, who thinks that physical is important? Who thinks that mental is more important than physical? Okay, who thinks that physical is more important than mental? Okay. So some archers would say that archery is 90% mental. Okay? So, problem is, how much time do we spend at physical practice? 100%. How much time do we spend at mental practice? Probably not much. Okay? Here an idea. Why don't we put both together? Okay? So, we need, of course, reproducible shot process because this is the base for our performance under pressure. If we always take control of what we can do to make sure that we're going to have a consistent shot, that is what we should do. So we don't want to have already some variations in there, so we need to take care of that. And then, of course, we need a reproducible process, so the mental part linked to it, so that we always run through the same procedure for each shot. Because would you do something different physically from shot to shot? No. Of course not, because you know when I do something physically different, I have a different pressure point on my grip, I have a different tension on my fingers. You know that the arrow will hit a different spot, because this is linked to the physical, what we're going to do. So, why would we then think differently from shot to shot, or not think at all? Because this is having a big influence on our shooting. So I always call this the software. So the mental part that we are applying is the software. Because the computer, you have your hard drive, you have your CPU, you have your graphic card, you have whatever you want, but without a software on it, it doesn't work. You only have the hardware, but we need also the software to make it work. So this is mental part, physical part. When I put both of them together, I have the process. So now you understand what I mean about a shot process, and you have seen what is the difference with the shot sequence. Of course, we need now to put the mental part on it. So, until here, is that more or less clear? Yes, great. Okay, so when we're talking about the shot process, we cannot, as you see, mine has 14 pages right now. Of course, there are pictures in it, it's not only text. We need something easier, we need something graphical. So this is what I am using. And as you can see, there are all the steps inside, it's all connected. There's with Newton's law of acceleration, because I draw the string, there's some inertia, there's resistance going on. There's also action and reaction, so I have to evaluate my shot. So there is some mental activity already involved. So why do I represent it like this? It may look complicated, but later on we get a more easier representation of this. It's the same like this. If you play music, you don't start playing Beethoven's 9th Symphony from the first note and then you go straight to the last one. No, you're going to divide it into several parts as well. And you will see that there are parts that are more complicated than others, so of course you will spend more time on the complicated parts, because this is where you can improve dramatically if you focus on what you are not that good at. Okay? Another example is this. I guess most of you still remember space shuttles. You looked at SpaceX generation. Great, I prefer space shuttle. So to make this thing fall back to Earth, because it's just a brick falling back, it's not flying, that thing. You can see this is mission control. Everyone, if it is now a communication, if it is now weather, if it is flight or whatever direction, they are all watching their set of parameters. So they are not watching the entire thing, but they are just watching their parameters, and together they make a safe return for the space shuttle. Okay, so again here we can put our steps on it, just as in the short sequence, where we can have our basic chapter with the technical points to watch. It is exactly the same. So now let's start facilitating our graphical representation. So all the complicated arrows I have taken out, and I have now replaced them with, this is all what we do consciously. We need to do this consciously. Expansion, follow through, there is, as you can see, somewhere release is happening, but there is no aiming because subconscious is taking part of. You are lucky you have lots of snow. In my country I just have it for 3 days. If you make a snowball better, do you aim for 20 years before you throw? No, you just take your ball and bam, you're going to hit. Because your subconscious knows how to do it. Especially when people are running, you know instinctively that you have to throw in front of him. You're not throwing at where he is at that moment, but in front so you can hit him. That's the subconscious mind taking care of this. And then at the end, feedback evaluation, it is the self-image. Because we make an evaluation of ourselves, was this good, what can I improve? That's the third part of it. So, again, all which is orange is conscious, that there's a decision coming. I have to, from one moment on, I have to switch from conscious to subconscious. Because I'm going to choose to shoot, I'm going to take the decision. When you see often archers, they come to their anchor and then they start shaking because they cannot pass the clicker. They have to shoot because they are not using any biomechanical whatever to make it more easy for them, so they have to choose. We are trying to teach, we choose by setting up, by going through these consciously, taking care of the most important technical points. Then we expand, which is half conscious, half subconscious, and then we come to the self-image. And as you can see, on the software side, there is no aiming, there is no release. Again, this is happening somewhere in between. We are not consciously opening our fingers because you will see it as a coach. The fingers go up and stay up. That's the difference. So, again, let's look at what they do in other sports. So this is Tiger Woods. Seems to be a bit dark, but I hope you can still see it. What we have now is he's taking care of his posture. Okay? So let's make this guy do some sport. It's slow motion, so it takes some time. So he's drawing his club back consciously, taking care that his arm don't bend, that he doesn't lose any posture, whatever. His focus stays on the ball because that is what he wants to hit. So he's still rising up, all consciously. He can still abort. Now he's taking the decision, I'm going for the shot. And he cannot abort anymore. Now subconscious mind is taking over. Subconscious mind is making sure he's going to hit that little ball. It is making sure that he doesn't hit into the grass. Now follow through. He's just not stopping, it's follow through. You see, also in other sports we have the same. We have conscious, subconscious, self-image. So why do we treat archery differently? Okay? So, we need to go through all these sets by taking some points more seriously than others. And for those who are assisting in the practical part starting today and the next 2 days, we're going to talk about what is important, the way I am teaching my archers. But there are two ways that you can evaluate the outcome. You can evaluate the outcome of the shot if the process was good or if the outcome was good. What do you think is best? I can shoot a 10. Oh, okay, good 10. Was it a good shot? No. But the outcome was good. But isn't the outcome what counts during competition? I have to shoot a high score. Yeah, so it's a conflict. So, of course, we need to focus on the process, because only then we are able to repeat it over and over again. If it is now training or competition, if we trust the process that we have trained at our training sessions, we can repeat it during competitions, and we can have a predictable outcome in unpredictable conditions. Okay? If you look at this picture here, that's actually my first ever 58 I shot in a competition. What do you see when you look at this target face? It was shot at 70 meters. What is the first things that comes to your mind?
Sorry.
There's an 8. I don't care, I have 5 axes. It's a 58, yeah, but still, was it a bad shot? No, the shot was good, there was wind. So it was a good shot, so there's nothing bad about this. Of course everybody says, ooh, you shot an 8. Damn it, I shot 5 axes. The 8 was the first shot, yes, but I shot 5 axes after that. So, you see what I mean? We are always tempted to evaluate ourselves on the outcome. We don't see the entire picture. When you look at your score sheet, you have shot quite constantly, but one end is 6 points lower than the average. What are you focusing on? Well, I shot a 52 on average, but there I have a 47. You're always focusing on the negative. You are not focusing on what have I done right. Okay, you see what I mean? And we need to change that, and this we can by focusing on the process, not on the outcome. Because you have no influence what is going to happen to your arrow once it has left your bow. There can be some gust, there can be some wind, whatever. It drives your arrow far off, but was it a bad shot? No, you cannot control that. So why don't we just focus on what we can control? Okay? So, moreover, the software allows for intensity control. It helps us to balance conscious and subconscious. Because I'm working now for 10 years with Coach Keith Lee, what he's calling holding. So holding is, let's say, a mental state where you are really balanced, that you feel in the zone, everything is working fine. So it is mental and physical. The physical part would be that your shoulders and the bow arm are perfectly aligned. And we reach this by going through these steps. But again, in the practical part, I'm going into more details about this. Plus, the software allows us for rhythm and timing. Okay? So, let's have a look at this. This is people who don't want to think about anything when they shoot their bow. So everything they want to do is taking care of subconscious. They don't want to have any thought. They're just doing. They step to the line, take an arrow and shoot. They don't think about anything. But since they don't have a process, at one moment they have, you have to aim somewhere. So they are switching from their subconscious to the conscious. Release is somewhere in between, so they are often exploding. The hand opens, flies away from the head. And it's not a very good shot. But moreover, the intensity of the shot always goes up. The more we pull on the string, the heavier it gets. That's of course the physics of the recurve, because we don't have our shot sequence. We just have a couple of steps, but there is no biomechanically efficient step involved. It's just basically I come to anchor, I aim, I shoot, and hopefully I hit something. If you apply a process, we can see the intensity goes up. At setup is the position where I already align my shoulder. So I don't do this at full draw, because under full tension of my bow I cannot align unless I want to bust my articulations. So I'm doing that already at this point. My shoulders are already in line, I haven't anchored yet. Then I continue, and I am sure that I am going to have the support of my bone structure with taking already some intensity off from my muscles. So I don't have to take on all the tension of my bow by my muscles, but my bone structure is helping me doing this. Of course, tension gets high again until I get to this holding, because then I am really perfectly aligned in my full draw form, as World Archery calls it. I have anchored, I'm ready to shoot. I feel that I cannot be compressed. It's like Da Vinci's drawing of the Vitruvian Man, the guy in the circle. You are strong there. You step into the door, you press the door outside. You are not strong, but you step into the door, you press outside, you could break the wall. At least you have the feeling. That is what holding represents, okay? And of course, since we achieve this biomechanical position, we can get rid of some tension of the bow because the bone structure is helping us do this. This is supported by the breathing cycle. Breathing is very important. Breathing is giving us, first of all, rhythm, so I'm talking a bit ahead of my presentation. There are 2 times where we breathe in during the shot. And you will feel that you have some natural feeling of power inside you because blood pressure goes up. This is what we're going to use as well to help us to be consistent. Is this clear, understandable?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So I am always trying to make things simple. So here's a very simple representation of the shot sequence. We just take the longer one, we make it into a shot clock. We start here, is the setup where we, okay, load, anchor, transfer, we come to holding. This is where we switch to the subconscious and we continue. We go from A, B, C, D, and for every shot we're going to repeat it. Okay? Setup, holding very important. We have to take the decision. We want to take the decision, am I gone through all my checkpoints on this side? I am having the confidence that I have done the necessary, that my shot will be repeatable. On the left side we have the process, of course, for putting up the steps one behind the other. Here we have the execution, which means pulling through the clicker, releasing, aiming, and so on. If we now add our conscious, subconscious, and self-image, they have to be balanced somewhere inside of this circle. Because only then we are in the zone. We feel like we can compete on our highest level. And this is what high-level athletes do every time. They have different techniques to reach this. They have different mental programs to train this, but this is what they are doing. When you look at Usain Bolt, before his 100-meter final, he is smiling at the camera. He's making jokes with the kid taking his shirt, whatever. Other people, they don't look at him, so it's quite different what people do. But they are trying to get into the zone by doing this, okay? So, now we come to the quiz part. So, which means I need your participation again. So, if we have now people which have a big conscious part, but a smaller subconscious and a small self-image, what people are these? So, conscious, they are taking care of everything by really thinking about it, but they are not really relying on self-conscious to take over at some moment. What do you think this could be? Excuse me?
What do you mean?
What kind of person? I give you the first one so you know.
Introvert?
Excuse me?
Introvert?
Introvert? Not really, but mostly, let's say, these are for beginners. Because they really pay attention to what they are doing, because they don't get the entire picture yet. Okay? This one, we have big conscious, big self-conscious, but a small self-image. This is the major part of all the archers. Any idea? So self-image is pretty low, so they don't think much of themselves. They don't, yes?
The advanced novice.
That's not bad, I call them frustrated expert. But it's the same, because they know what they have to do, but they are frustrated because they don't get the results they can, because this part is missing. But very good. Next one. Very conscious, a very small conscious part, big subconscious, big self-image. Big self-image is always a problem. So what kind of, if they are not balanced, okay? So what kind of person is this?
He was assistant.
Yeah? Unfocused, distracted, because the mind is wandering around. He doesn't know really what am I doing, but I am convinced of myself.
Kids.
It could be. But now the worst. Huge self-image. That's the worst part of people you can train. Any idea what this could be? No? Yeah?
Like talented people? Or like
Talented, yes. I can accept talented, yes.
The overly proud.
Very good. The overconfident, those who think they know it all. You can tell them whatever you want, they are always right. They are not accepting any advice, nothing, because they know that what they do is the correct, and whatever the coach, who is the coach? What does the coach know? He is the archer. The coach is not shooting the arrows, but the archer is. Huge self-image. Those people you can't train. The only thing you can do with them is let them hit the wall a couple of times. They will never learn from you. So they need to hit the button and then come back crawling to you and begging for your help. Only then you can pass a message to them. So stay away from these people. Trust me. I have made my experience with one of them. It didn't end well. Okay. So you see how this is important. How the self-image, the subconscious, the conscious is influencing our behavior. Okay. It's very, very important. So we need all them to have the same size so that we can be aware of what we do, that we can trust our subconscious, that we can trust our body to carry out the actions that we need. And of course we need to have the right self-image, which is actually reflecting our personality, not thinking that we are a cat or that we are a lion if we don't are that. Okay? This is what we really need to be balanced, to be in the zone. So we need to change the way we teach that. But also rhythm and timing is very important because our mind will shift just after a couple of seconds. So we need to keep the timing short so that nothing gets out of line or whatever. So we don't want something to be happening. So we need to respect a certain timing for the shot. And this is also something which is going to help us to have a more, let's say, I don't want to say positive outcome, but a constant outcome, predictable outcome. Okay. So we need, again, our shot sequence to establish in what order we have to shift our focus. When I step to the line, I first need to take care, how do I do the positioning of my feet? I put my arrow, it seems stupid about talking how to knock an arrow, but so much can go wrong. You have already seen people shooting an arrow which was not on the rest but on the button, which was not properly knocked, that the index vein was facing the wrong side, so it was sitting the button. So it is important. So we need to step to the line, taking care of our position. We take our arrow, put it on, we check, we hook, we grip, and we check that this is always the same. So we need, as you can see, to focus or establish an order in which our attention shifting or focusing on different points during the shot. It is not always the same, but it will change during the shot. Rhythm, as I said before, is the systematic arrangement of the steps that I carry out. So I have to have a rhythm which is defined also by breathing. This is what giving fluidity to the shot. So it's not to have here broken down, but it is You can still see the steps, but they are fluidly carried out. This is important to overcome any hesitation or to give fear a chance to attack you, because when people step on the line during qualification round, it is different than when you step to the line for a match, for instance. You see that there are some changes, but we want to keep these changes as small as possible. And of course, this will give a consistent timing. So rhythm and timing give consistency. So the rhythm is the systematic arrangement of the steps. This is done, again, by our conscious mind. We are not rushing through, but we are making it in a normal, our usual rhythm, our tempo, our speed that we are always doing it. Timing from holding to release 1 to 3 seconds. Why 3 seconds? Because the subconscious mind can only keep one thought for 3 seconds. It's like the goldfish in the bowl. we can keep them in turning around bowl because every 3 seconds the goldfish is discovering something new. And this is true, I tested it. I wasn't coaching at that time, I was still at university. And since you said I was working in a microbiogenetics lab, so when we order stuff, we always got it on dry ice. And fun thing about dry ice is if you put it into water, it bubbles, so carbon dioxide comes out. And by chance, we had a fish bowl in our laboratory. So now imagine 2 guys in a white lab coat standing in front of the fish tank, throwing dry ice inside, and then we see the fish going through the bubble. Doesn't like it, goes away. But a certain time later, it comes back to the same button. Why? Okay, let's go grab a stopwatch. So there were 2 people standing there with a stopwatch, observing the fish going through the carbon dioxide bubble, swimming away. Again, coming back, stop. Maybe, 3 seconds almost. Problem was then the head of laboratory walked in. When we explained him what we were doing, there were 3 guys standing there with a stopwatch. So the timing is important. So if we are standing at full draw, aiming for 7 seconds, please stop it. It cannot be a good shot. If you hit the target, it's by chance. I'm not saying if you just have 10 seconds left of the shot clock that you should come down now, but try to respect this, especially in trainings. Don't do anything what is outside of normal, because we want to teach our subconscious mind a reliable program that we can every time use at the competition. So I was talking before about commitment, because the basketball player stepping to the line is making his position, then he takes the decision, okay, but he must also commit to the shot. So he's just not stepping up and, no, but he's taking the commitment. Now I raise my hands and I throw the ball. We have to do the same. So archery is like a penalty in football. I don't know if you like football in here. Not so much. If archery was easy, it would be called football, of course. So, but it is like a penalty. Every shot is like a penalty. Every shot is like a shoot-off. We need to make sure that all we do is familiar. It is not out of our range, and we have to commit to this as well. Because in the absence of a commitment, the subconscious mind cannot come up with a plan B. For instance, I was once shooting a 25-18 round indoors. 25 meters was going pretty well, and at one moment, something bad happened. I was standing there, I was trying to go through the clicker, it didn't work, so he said, okay, I have still plenty of time left. Was the second arrow, the first one was a 10. I came back down and, oh shit. And I saw the guy sitting on the bench next to me. I was pretty close with him. I saw him look like this, and then... and I saw it was good. I was just, okay, I was aiming at the middle spot, but I had 9 on the lower spot, so great, I was lucky. You see what I mean? I was not having a good shot, and I don't want to make this happen more often. The third shot was a 10, by the way. So I shot my personal best of 291 at 25 meters that day. But again, I don't want to let this happen often, because my subconscious mind is, I shot a 10, so I worry about all these steps. No, I just can do whatever I want. Especially when I'm stressed, I can improvise, but we don't want that to happen. So, the commitment is to stick to the plan, which means that we don't want any improvisation. This is the key for shooting predictable outcomes in unpredictable environments, because we stick to our routine. Would any athletic guy, Usain Bolt unfortunately doesn't run anymore, would he do something different before each run? No. Or during his run, it's always the same. Head down till 30 meters, getting head up, and then pushing and going through 9:58. Would he change that? Of course not. So we should as well stick to the plan. And if we deviate from this plan, we should start over for not letting our subconscious mind allowing to have an alternative reality happening to us. And of course, there's again this aspect of timing involved. So, to sum up, the first conclusion, I'm not done yet, sorry, it still goes on. So the shot process is the framework of all the mental activities. This is the most important. What do I think at what moment? This is what is guiding me through my shot sequence. And also, where do I have to place this focus? So I need to be aware of this. What am I doing at what time during my shot? And you will see, if you apply this, you will feel exhausted after 60 arrows, just as you do during a competition. But is it not better to shoot fewer arrows, but they are good, than lots of arrows and they are shot bad? Anyways, you train, you get better at whatever you do. So, there's no chance that I cannot talk about target panic. So there are many symptoms that may be different from person to person, but the archer himself always knows when he has it. I recently am working with a guy from Belgium. He was told to have target panic, but he didn't. But since people in the club always repeated to him, "Oh, you are collapsing, you have target panic." No, he has some technical shortcomings, but it took me a couple of months now to convince him that he's not having target panic. So please be very careful with what you say to people, that this doesn't happen to you, because you're creating yourself big problems. So what people always believe is going to help is, of course, the equipment. It's never the one pulling on the string, it's always the equipment. IT guys will always say 99% of problems in informatics is related to the guy sitting in front of it. It's not the hardware, you see what I mean. Then yes, you have to shoot with your eyes closed to focus on the feeling. Okay? Of course, blank bail because you're afraid of the goal, so get rid of it. Don't want it. And then you're always suggesting progressive training. You start at 5 meters, you go back at 10. Okay, it's working. You go back to 15. It's working. Less well, but still. You go to 18, bam, doesn't work. You go back again at 5 meters. So, this is what it could look like. This is one form of target panic. There is other forms where people cannot even lift the bow. He's standing on the line. And it goes on for 1 minute 30 and they shoot 3 arrows in 30 seconds. You see what I mean? There are many symptoms, okay. But it is not related to the clicker or to the trigger for compound. It has nothing to do with the distance you are shooting at. It is of course not a side pin or an aiming issue. And that certainly is not a dedication, because that is, if the coach doesn't know what to say, he says, well, you need to try harder, you need to be focused. Yeah, it's not a dedication issue. There is something wrong. But what is it? It is simply that you cannot trust your shot process anymore. To speak again in computer terms, you need a patch for your program, because there's a bug in your software. So how do we get rid of this? Do you have an idea? Right now, you maybe get a clue what I'm talking about? No? So we need, of course, again, to work on the conscious, because the conscious is able to direct our focus. We need this to control our thoughts. We need the conscious part of our shot cycle to see, okay, we need a process. We need to take care at this step of this point, the next step, and so on, until we are able again to shoot. We need to take care of the subconscious, because we have it to be programmed. We need to program it over again so that it can function again normally. It's the same, you don't ride your bicycle for 10 years. The program is still there. You just need to repair it in archery, but you need to reprogram it, because this is linked to the physical performance. And of course, we need to work on the self-image, because this describes our habits and our comfort zone, and it is driving our performance. So we need to work on those three again. I have seen reports with people I usually work with in these key seminars. We often deal with this, and it is not a joke. I was once starting, it was 2013 when I did my first seminar with him, and I was, okay, it's easy to do, yeah, of course. But when you then see the videos that he showed, unfortunately I don't have them because he's not sharing them, I asked, but... So there are people, he's working with people that come from Korea to the US to work with him, get rid of target panic. There was one girl, she tried to commit suicide because she couldn't shoot her bow anymore. So she flew with her mom to US, from Korea to the US, just to work with him. He was seeing videos before, no coach could help her, so he was inviting this girl to him after his official training practice with the US team, and he was looking at, just watching 2 arrows, and here was stopped, explaining the steps, that we have to break down the shot into steps. At this step you focus on this, at that step you focus on that, just to give this information. The girl was practicing just with the rubber band, not shooting any arrow for 1 day. So he was working with him from 5 to 6 in the afternoon. The next day she was doing this practice, and she was told not to shoot any single arrow without him being present. So after 5 week practice with US team, they met again. She was taking her bow. Okay, technique was a bit shaky, was not as it should be, but she was able to shoot the arrow. She did not come down, and she was the one going up, going down all the time. She raised the bow, bam, shot. From 6 arrows she shot, she just missed 1. Just 1 she let down. Before she didn't shoot any arrows. So it is just, we need to pay our focus to the conscious part. What do we have to do to reach this? We need to trust or reprogram our subconscious, because the subconscious is taking part of the aiming, of the expansion, and subsequently ending in follow-through, but it is the self-image which is driving our performance. So I have this on a video which was just online for a couple of times before it was deleted, so I can show you later. Cut this out. So, the most important is that we need to teach the process. That we need to come to this holding position where we are supported by our bone structure, that we can choose to shoot. It's not an obligation. We choose to expand. It's not I have to shoot. It's not, oh, bow is getting heavy, I have to pull through. No, because then you are not taking this decision consciously. We need to balance conscious and subconscious to make sure that we are going to be on the best of our performance, and to trust our subconscious, of course. This, as you have seen, will also help us with intensity control, because we are using our bone structure to get the tension of our muscles. This is also something that we can measure for those who are going to take part in the practical part. I will show you videos, because the heart rate, if you reach holding, no joke, the heart rate is dropping 20 to 30 beats per minute. This is just by measuring heartbeat. I have other videos I can show on these trainings where you can, where we measure the brain waves, where you can see that focus is going up, but also relaxed. People are more relaxed to shoot at this stage, because it is balanced conscious and subconscious. And of course, rhythm and timing. So now to make it even easier, because I like easy, that's my KISS technique, keep it simple, okay? So we have here rhythm, holding, and timing, which are our 3 mountains, let's say, okay? We just divide it between the conscious and the subconscious part. This is the shot process. And it just takes around 7 to 10 seconds each time to make it repeatable. So you have seen now 3 different representations, from a complex shot sequence to a shot clock and to this picture, which somehow sums it all up. Because this is what we need to control. Of course, technical steps are important, but they are not as important as conscious, subconscious. Technical parts are on this side, but we need that side as well, that we can have a reproducible outcome in unpredictable situations. So it is not just I have to focus on my technique, no, I have to put the mental part in it as well. And this is what, honestly, the only part which I like about this KSL short cycle. There's always the fight, yeah, he copied that guy copied this guy. If you compare KSL technique with Kim Jung-tak, with what the Germans do, with what the French do, basically it is all the same. But here what is specific to this is that you can add the mental part to your shot sequence. Without having now more time that you have to offer for getting specific training, you can train the mental part during your practical sessions as well. So, now the last. No, sorry, not the last one. But we are closing the circle now. So, is there now a difference in your mindset between practice and competition? Before you said yes, because I changed this, I pay more focus on that. Honestly, after this presentation, is there a difference in your mindset between practice and competition? No. It shouldn't be. Unless, of course, you can skip all the practice and just go shoot competitions, because that is where you progress, that is where you train. But there's not competitions 3 times per week. So we need to be able to make training hard, competition easy. For the moment it is, training is easy, but competition is hard, because we don't train our mindset. You always start training your mindset during competition, because you start paying attention to what you do. But it is not what you do on training. Does that make sense? I see a couple of heads nodding, that's good. So, you see, we need to start bringing the practice back to our practice field, so that we can then take the same performance back to the competition field. So when do you switch to the competition mode? Of course, during practice, because there is where we start practicing for competition. There are some easy things you can do before you go to your range. Just go there with the mindset, I'm going to shoot 3 practice rounds, then I start scoring. Do this once, and then you shoot, let's say, 50 arrows, and then you start scoring. You will see a difference between the two. Even though that you are in your nest, you are at your facility, you know the people around you, are familiar with the environment, but just the mindset, going to the practice field, to your club, shooting 3 practice rounds, then scoring, or being already in the training mood and then start scoring, you will see that there is a difference between those two. And I bet with you that when you go to your club with the mindset, I am going to shoot 3 practice rounds, then score, these points will be lower than if you have already shot at your training before. That is how the mindset is going to influence yourself. And that is what I wanted to tell you with all this information. I am aware that it is like an avalanche of information rolling over you, conscious, subconscious. Sometimes you maybe have not heard of this, but it's just to make clear to you what is influencing your performance from club shooting, training to competition. And this is very, very important. So now comes the last slide. So the last one for the road for me, but I think for me it is the most important. So don't be afraid of failure, but be terrified by regret. Meaning that this may not work for you, yes, but at least you have tried. I don't want anyone thinking back in a couple of years, yeah, okay, I have this problem, but I cannot solve it. But yes, there was this guy from Luxembourg once, this guy there talking about something mental, oh, I try that. And then you will realize, damn, it works. But you have lost 5 years. So don't be terrified of regret, because you cannot come back in time. So this is the references I use to do this. So there are many books I read. There is also some very interesting online material from Bob Baumann. Maybe you don't know him. It's the coach of Michael Phelps, 28 Olympic medals or something like this. So I guess when that guy talks, I shut up and I listen. So it is very interesting to see what he's doing, how they trained to reach this performance over and over again. And I guess you feel like this for the moment. So we still have, just as I planned, 40 minutes of questions. And hopefully you have some. Otherwise, we can discuss during the practical part. So I would like to thank you for your attention. I hope this has given you some useful information. And if you want some more, you can always contact me. I can share my contact details. That's not a problem. And as I said before, you can, of course, you will receive this presentation as well. So thank you. Tack.